Hey guys, welcome back to our FCS Dynasty and NCAA Football 2006. Today we're taking a look at the nation, doing our Week 9 recap and our Week 10 predictions. So let's get right into it and take a look at the Sports Illustrated. And the first one says, when it counts, Rams notch a conference win against number 3 Wyoming. So it must have been a huge game. Let's see if we can't see what the score was. Bowl rankings, Fresno State leaps to number 1. Go ahead and check that one out. UTEP is number 2, so they jumped right over UTEP in all the polls, it looks like. Colorado State's 3rd after their win over Wyoming. Nevada's 4th, Akron at 5. Savannah State jumps up to number 6 in the polls, and they're just absolutely everybody this year. Central Michigan, Navy, Wyoming, they dropped to 10th in the bowl rankings. Rice, 10th. So Wyoming dropped to number 9 in the bowl rankings, 10th in the actual polls. Hawaii is 11th, Ball State 12, New Mexico State 13, Ohio 14, and jumping up to 15th in the bowl rankings and 13th nationally. Let's go ahead and take a look at the top 25 polls and see if we don't have any other of our FCS schools in top 25 polls. Mountain West fight. Austin's play leads Colorado State to a 21-14 win over Wyoming. And that's a really good victory there for them. And Fresno State number 1 in the country. UTEP number 2. Both of those schools are undefeated at the moment. Both 6-0. And UTEP just beat Jackson State 45-0. That's not a very competitive game. And Colorado State is actually getting almost as many votes or points as UTEP for that number 2 spot. And it's very close for the number 4 spot as well between Nevada and Akron. Only 8 points separate the two schools. Savannah State jumps from 11th to number 6 in the country after they beat Howard 70-10 and improved to 7-0 on the year. They are the 3rd undefeated team, and you can see they're getting some first place votes as well. They have 3 first place votes. So the rest of the country not really giving them a lot of respect, and I could see why with the competition that they've played so far. Although they did beat Ohio, that was a big time win for them. Few teams getting a bye week here to round out the top 10. Wyoming drops to number 10 from 3rd place. Hawaii's 11th. Ball State drops 7 spots after they just lost to Ohio. Bryant jumps up 4 spots from 17th to 13th after they just beat Wofford 59-27. They improved to 7-0 as well. So there are 4 undefeated schools remaining in the country. Something to look out for, as 2 of them are in the ACC. William & Mary shuts out NCAA State 17-0. They improve to 6th in the season, jump up to 15th in the polls. FAU jumps to 16th after they beat Appalachian State 48-17. Now that is big because our Jacksonville Dolphins are going to be taking them on this week coming up. So that's going to be a crazy game. Let's see if Ryan Golden can continue his success after a 7-touchdown performance last week against the Alcorn State Braves. New Mexico, they just beat San Diego State 56-48. That threw me for a loop for a second. I thought it was South Dakota State. And I was going to say, I don't remember playing them. Ohio goes up to 18th. So the win for Savannah State over them is looking pretty good since they're back in the rankings. Idaho drops to 19th after they lost to Fresno State. FIU's 20th. Army drops 12 spots after losing to Akron. I don't know why they would drop that many spots. That's kind of crazy. Boise State jumps up 3 spots. They just beat Ball State 35-10. Now remember, Boise State was ranked number 1 for the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. Tulane jumps to 23rd after being unranked. Eastern Michigan drops 18 spots. They just lost to New Hampshire. You've got to be kidding me. Oh my goodness. 31-24 they lost. So New Hampshire gets a huge upset win over the 6th ranked Eastern Michigan Eagles. I did not see that coming. And Buffalo is the team. So Dayton, still not ranked. I believe they were ranked 28th before their game last week. And they won. And they're not. They are 26th, so they will be the next team in there. And you can see South Dakota State is 8th ranked, So we might have two schools in there. You can see Montana lost again. They dropped out. Sam Houston State, after getting destroyed by South Dakota State, drops out of the rankings. So if Dayton and South Dakota State both win this week coming up, you're going to see them in the rankings as well, making their first appearances. So that's it for the top 25. Let's take a look at the Heisman watch. Mid-season form, Holly's performance has the fans in Laramie believing in their Cowboys. And Wyoming has been really good this season. But they did just lose to Colorado State, and it doesn't look like Jason Holly did a whole lot. But MJ Gator Jr. still number one. Brandon Allen is trending upward. He has 21 total touchdowns on the year now. And M Jr. has 27 and over 1,600 yards. And Brandon Allen has over 1,300 yards. So very good halfbacks. Jordan Atkins goes down after that loss to Colorado State. And Robert Minor for FAU, their quarterback, 35 total touchdowns on the season, 2,660 yards. This is huge. So that means the Jacksonville Dolphins will be going up against a Heisman candidate this week. That is going to be a crazy game. If Ryan Golden can keep performing like he did last week, this is going to be another high-scoring shootout. And I'm looking forward to that one. So that's it for the Heisman watch. Take a look at the players of the week. Savannah State clobbers the Bison as Baker earns Player of the Week honors, owning them, and that they did. I don't know if everybody watched that game, but if you didn't, go back. And Baker just had an absolutely outstanding performance. Definitely worth the watch. Take a look at the Players of the Week for the rest of the country. Alexander Connor, Offensive Player of the Week. He did throw, 3 or 4 interceptions in this game against Northern Arizona, but they did win 62-42. He was 16 of 34, 421 yards. He had 170 on the ground and 7 touchdowns. Connor did have over 600 yards of offense. It says 599 right here, but let's not forget he also had a reception in that game. So over 600 yards of offense for Alexander Connor, one of the top FCS quarterbacks in the country. He did have some picks, but he is like Brett Favre. He's going to make some mistakes, but he's going to keep throwing it and keep piling on the points. Barrett Hodges, Sacramento State redshirt senior safety, and he had 9 tackles, interception, 3 forced fumbles, and a touchdown against Northern Colorado. They did lose that game 35-21. The Bears finally get a win against a pretty decent team. I know the record's 2-5. Their roster is not that bad. All right, ACC, MJ Gator Jr., Player of the Week for offense. 7 carries, 165 yards, 4 touchdowns. And Stephen Baker, look at those stats. 11 tackles, 7 tackles for a loss, 1 sack, 2 interceptions, and 1 interception and 2 forced fumbles. So he was balling out. Into the Big Ten, Cody Stoops, redshirt freshman quarterback for Illinois State, 299 yards passing, 4 touchdowns in their win over the Indiana State Sycamores. Great performance from the redshirt freshman. Desmond Williams, sophomore, right outside linebacker for the Montana Grizzlies. He had 10 tackles, 5 for loss, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, a fumble recovery. The Big 12, Lamar Jackson, 7 of 13, 266 yards, 11 carries, 101 yards, 5 total touchdowns. He did get injured in the matchup against Sam Houston State, so he's going to miss at least 1 game going forward, which it might be a huge loss for the Jackrabbits. So hopefully Matt Harris can come in. Matt Harris did lead the Jackrabbits quite well in the FCS tournaments leading up to this dynasty. So let's see if he can continue that success off the bench. And on defense for the Big 12, Christian Daniels, redshirt senior right end, had 12 tackles, 5 for a loss, 2 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Beastin' and feastin' for sure. The Big East, Patrick Thomas, senior wide receiver out of Harvard, had 11 catches, 250 yards, and 4 scores. And he was pretty much the entire offense as they beat Columbia 38-28. On defense, junior middle linebacker Jamar Murphy for Brown had 13 tackles, 2 for loss, sack, and a forced fumble in a close win over Cornell, in which the Brown Bears won 29-24. Down to USA, Shannon Lawrence for James Madison, redshirt junior quarterback, was 21 of 29, 499 yards, 5 touchdowns. That's insane numbers. On D, Wendell Scott for UTEP, junior left outside linebacker in the 45-0 win over Jackson State. He had 3 tackles, 2 for loss, 1 sack, interception, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. So he was doing it all for the Miners and helped them improve to 6-0 on the year. Independence, Dennis Allen, he was outstanding against Bryant even though they lost big. He had 13 carries, 179 yards, 60 receiving yards. I'm pretty sure he had a kick return for a touchdown. He was doing everything for the Terriers. And so was Titus Taylor on defense, the sophomore outside linebacker. He had 9 tackles, 3 for a loss, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. Now, Wofford does drop to 1-7 on the season, but with some decent recruiting, I think this team is going to be solid in the years to come. The MAC, Andrew Talley, redshirt senior quarterback for the Western Michigan Broncos, was 28 of 34, 403 yards, and 5 touchdowns in a 52-21 win over the Hofstra Pride. Scott Bile Bobcats, redshirt senior corner, in a 23-10 win over Ball State, had 6 tackles, an interception, and 2 forced fumbles. And that helped Ohio improve to 5-2 on the season. Mountain West, James Poole, redshirt senior halfback for the New Mexico Lobos, had 169 yards rushing, 3 scores, 3 catches, 30 yards, and another score. So 4 total touchdowns in a shootout against San Diego State, 56-48 win in overtime. Richard Brown for Air Force, sophomore right outside linebacker, in a 38-17 win over Murray State, had 3 tackles, an interception, and a fumble recovery. Air Force improves to 5-3. Here's the Pac-10. We saw these guys. They were the National Players of the Week. So we already know their stats. Alexander Connor, Barrett Hodges, balling out, playing fantastic football for their schools. The SEC, Ryan Golden. I don't know how he did not beat out Alexander Connor, because Golden did not throw any interceptions. He didn't turn the ball over, and he was 19 of 28, 534 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Just an absolutely beastly performance. And on defense, Allen Davidson against Alcorn State had 4 tackles and a pick 6, which basically sealed the deal in that 4th quarter. So a crazy game, 63-56 win. All thanks to Ryan Golden's 7 touchdown passes. For the Sun Belt, Blake Downing, redshirt sophomore halfback for the Georgia Southern Golden Eagles, had 176 yards receiving on 5 catches with 3 touchdowns. He also had 28 carries and 154 yards. Those are crazy numbers. And on defense for Georgia Southern, in their 38-16 win over Tennessee Martin, the redshirt junior defensive tackle had 6 tackles, 3 for a loss, a sack, and a forced fumble. So a great game for him as well. Out of the WAC, Charles Crook, senior halfback out of Hawaii, against San Jose State, in which they won 33-21. Had 10 carries, 51 yards, 2 touchdowns, 8 receptions, 76 yards, and a touchdown. So not really crazy numbers here. So I'm thinking that he probably had some special teams numbers as well, some nice returns, because that doesn't really seem like that would be player of the game or player of the week material for the WAC, which is loaded with FBS schools. And on defense for the WAC, redshirt junior middle linebacker for Fresno State, Brandon Lumpkin, against Idaho, in which they won 31-24, had 9 tackles, 1 for a loss, forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. So a lot of crazy stats this week. Let's go ahead and check out the conference standings. Savannah State stays unbeaten with a 70-10 win versus conference rival Howard. Tigers keep winning. Yes, sir. All right, here's the ACC, led by Bryant, who is 5-0 in the conference. That's the only reason they're ahead of Savannah State, is because the Tigers have not played 5 conference games. But they have scored 398 points and only allowed 90 this season. Bryant scored 373 and only allowed 106. So very evenly matched teams. And I think if they do meet up in the title game, it's going to be a lot closer than people think. I noticed some people think Savannah State's just going to blow them out. But I think Bryant is the best team in the country that has a chance out of the FCS schools to beat Savannah State right now. William and Mary, 6-2 on the year, 4-1 in the conference. And South Carolina State, they are on Savannah State's schedule. This is the toughest game they'll have left. That's in a few weeks. And I'm expecting that one to be a pretty good game. But the Atlantic and Bryant, they already beat William and Mary, so all they got to do is just coast through the rest of their schedule, and they should get to the title game. Now, here we go. This is where it gets interesting because South Carolina State only has that one loss. And then if they beat Savannah State, they would jump them, most likely, to go face Bryant in the ACC Championship game. So that'll definitely be an upset alert week when they face the Bulldogs of State. That should be the best game remaining on that schedule. On to the Big Ten. Dayton sits alone at the top, 4-0 in the conference. Everybody else has 2, and it looks like they might coast away with this one as well. Indiana State 3 on the season, but they are 3-2 in conference. And Montana, they just dropped out of the league. They lost their second game of the season. Southern Illinois beats them 39-36 in a thriller in Montana. Oh my goodness. And that's pretty much it for the Big Ten. It's only really 3 or 4 schools that are decent right now, but they will get good in the next couple of years with recruiting. On the Big 12, VMI sits atop that alone, 4-0 in the conference. Everybody else has a leading loss. There's Furman with 1 loss, South Dakota State, and North Dakota State, who just lost to VMI in a subscriber versus subscriber matchup. That was a great game. If you have not watched that one, go back and check it out. VMI's defense was dominating. So the Big 12 is still up for grabs, really. VMI still has another subscriber versus subscriber matchup, I believe. I know North Dakota State does take on Bryant in the final week of the year, so that'll be a good one as well. Not a conference game. The Bisons still have a chance at beating undefeated Bryant. Big 12 North, that is up for grabs for sure. There's 3 3-1 schools right now, so anybody can win that at this point. And the South is looking like VMI is going to run away with this one. I don't think anybody's going to hang with them now that their offense is at full strength. Big East is up for grabs for anybody, except for Cornell, apparently, who has not won a single conference game. 2-5 on the year, but everybody's pretty evenly matched. There's only one team that doesn't have a losing record, and that is Yale, who's 4-4 on the season. Conference USA, UTEP #1 right now, undefeated. And Rice is also undefeated. James Madison having a fantastic season for the FCS schools in the Conference USA, as well as Jacksonville State and Towson, who is 6-2 on the year. They're having a great season. And they did just beat Stephen F. Austin 38-20, but their next game, they will be traveling to take on 6-0 UTEP. So maybe they'll have an upset win. I don't know. I don't like their chances in that game. But if they do, that'll be fantastic, especially for that conference. Some other schools, the Phoenix, 1-7 on the year. They've only scored 70 points in 8 games. Wow. Conference USA East is led by James Madison currently. Jacksonville State's right behind them. And the West is led by UTEP. Tulane is still doing really well for themselves, and Rice, of course, conference, they still have a shot as well. So if Towson does beat UTEP, the West is up for grabs, and Towson might even have a chance at winning it, which would be insane. Independence, Navy 5-1 on the season. Army 6-2. They just lost to Akron, and they dropped, what was it, 12 spots? Yeah, 12 spots. I don't know why they dropped so far, because Akron is in the top 10 right now. That's crazy. It's like they lost to one of the worst schools or something. On to the MAC. Ohio is leading that conference. One of their 2 losses is to Savannah State. Not sure who else they lost to, but they did just beat Ball State 23-10, which is a huge win. Central Michigan 6-1 on the year. Ball State 6-1. Akron 7-1 on the year. So I don't know how Army dropped so far, losing to a 7-1 Akron Zips football team. And on down, here's New Hampshire. They just had the huge win over Eastern Michigan, 31-24. It was only their second conference win of the season, and only their 3rd win overall. So that's a huge win for them. And UMass still struggling. They've only scored 79 points in 7 games. They're 0-7. Still looking for that first win of the season. Mountain West, Colorado State leads that right now, undefeated in the conference, 4-0. New Mexico's right behind them, but I do believe they just lost. No, they just won against San Diego State 56-48 in a crazy game. They do get to take on Colorado State Rams this week. So we're going to have number 17 versus number 3. That's a huge game with national championship implications. Air Force 5-3, Wyoming 7-2. UNLV is starting to climb back in there. They're 3-2 in conference. The South Dakota State Jackrabbits did beat them in Las Vegas, but they've strung together a few wins in a row here to get back into contention for maybe the Mountain West title. San Diego State 4-4 on the year. Murray State 2-6. Their only win, or one of their only wins. Their only non-conference win. Who was that against? South Dakota State? I know they beat one of our schools. I played so many games right now. There's only 49 games left in the season, guys, out of 133. So I played quite a few games for this entire series. Pac-10, the most interesting conference since we have 5 schools in it, and the top 4 schools are all ours. Okay, we've got Cal Poly at the top. They're 4-0. San Diego, with that huge shutout victory yesterday against Southern Utah, jumps up to number 2. Southern Utah is no longer undefeated in the Pac-10. They dropped to 4th. UC Davis had an ugly victory against Idaho State. They should not have won that game, but they jumped to 3rd. And then we'll go down here. Portland State's 5th. Eastern Washington is 6th. And Northern Colorado sitting at 2-2 in the conference. And they're still fighting for a postseason berth. Now, I believe next week, this coming week actually, they have another subscriber versus subscriber matchup. And I think it's against Cal Poly. So that's going to be a rough game. I could be wrong. Well, let's check it out. It is against Cal Poly. That's their next game. I have the controller in my hand. I don't know why I didn't just hit select and check it out before talking. But whatever. That's going to be a good game. And I'm not sure if I like Northern Colorado's chances right now. And Idaho State 1-7 on the season, 0-5 in conference. They almost had a crazy win over UC Davis. If you haven't watched that, go back and take a look at it. Check it out. Very ugly game. But UC Davis was able to pull it off in the end. The SEC, Jacksonville sitting pretty at number 2 in the conference. Their only conference loss is to the number 1 team in the SEC, the Tennessee State Tigers, who are 5-0 in conference, 5-1 overall. They just beat Alabama A&M 31-28. They're having a great season. Collins, 861 yards on the season, 7 touchdowns, a fantastic year for him. He's definitely leading that team. Jacksonville, they control their own destiny right now. They don't have to win this next game against FAU in order to get to the SEC championship game. It would be a huge victory for them, though, and definitely boost the morale quite a bit. So this is the rest of the SEC. Not a whole lot of competition. Prairie View A&M 0-7 on the season, but they have put up some points, 175. Now, if you go back and look at the other winless schools in the nation, they've all scored less than 100 points. So Prairie A&M, they know how to score. They just don't know how to stop the score. On to the South, FIU 3-0 in the conference. Georgia Southern 3-0 in the conference. They still have a really good chance of winning this conference, especially since they get to travel to take on the 20th ranked FIU Golden Panthers. So that is going to be a game for the Sun Belt Championship, basically. FAU, they're third. They lost to Georgia Southern. Crazy loss to them. Huge upset win. And the rest of the Sun Belt is looking rough. Texas State, oh my goodness, 0-8, but they're not dead last in the Sun Belt because they only have 3 losses, and Northwestern State has 4. But Texas State, they know how to score too, but they have allowed 336 points. That is insane. Out of the WAC, Hawaii 5-2, 4-1 in the conference. Fresno State undefeated, but number 2 right now. They've only played 3 conference games. They've only allowed 90 points this year. Having a great season. Nevada's only allowed 80 points. Also having a great year. 5-1. This conference is absolutely stacked. Look at these top 6 teams. They're all 5-2 or 5-1, 6-0. Oh my goodness. And then you go down San Jose State. They still got a chance at a bowl game. They're 1-6 on the year. They're taking on Southwest Missouri State. I can never remember. But they have only scored 88 points this season. So I think San Jose State has an easy win ahead of them. I think. Who knows? This whole entire dynasty has been crazy so far. But that is it for taking a look at the nation. We're going to do a recap of our Week 9 prediction and results. and then we're going to get into Week 10 predictions, guys. So Week 9 results, no surprises here. Every single prediction that I had came true. Obviously not all the scores, so I'm pretty sure this is my last week doing score predictions. From now on, I'm just going to go ahead and select who I think is going to win, because most of the time these scores are just so crazy right now, because a lot of these schools don't really have any defense or any depth on their teams, so it's really hard for most of the schools to actually stop people and stop the scoring. That's why the scores are pretty ridiculous sometimes, but not completely unrealistic if you're looking at scores from real life from yesterday or any week this year in college football. It's pretty crazy. But let's get into this, guys. Savannah State ranked 11th in the country. They beat the Howard Bison 70-10. Alcorn State traveled to Jacksonville, Florida to take on the Dolphins. I had the Dolphins winning a shootout 55-54, and it was 63-56. Ryan Golden, 7 touchdown passes. Absolutely phenomenal performance. And Northern Colorado, I had them winning. They won 35-21. I had the Mustangs winning against Northern Arizona. They won it 62-42. And I had South Dakota State upsetting the Sam Houston State Bearcats 45-38. They ended up winning 63-28. That's it for the first 5 games. Let's take a look at the second half of week number 9. And again, I got every single prediction right this week. So we had Dayton winning. I predicted a win for them. They won 49-14. VMI beats North Dakota State in the Fargo Dome 38-28. The 17th ranked Bryant Bulldogs hosted the Wofford Terriers, and Bryant won that one 59-27. Of course, Wofford did have some electric plays from Dennis Allen, the halfback. He is a monster. And UC Davis traveled to Idaho State. I had UC Davis putting up a lot of points in this game, but their offense really struggled. They were shooting themselves in the foot almost every single drive, but they were able to pull out a very close victory late in the fourth quarter against the now 1-7 Idaho State Bengals. And then our last game, San Diego, the Toreros traveled to Southern Utah to take on the Thunderbirds. I had the Toreros winning 21-20, and they did not disappoint, folks. 24-0, a complete shutout. Owen Gregory for the Thunderbirds couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat, and their offense was just completely stagnant. They should have had a touchdown to end the first half. The ball was fumbled through the back of the end zone or the side of the end zone, so San Diego escaped without allowing any points, and that was in Cedar City, Utah, so a huge victory for the Toreros. That's it for our Week 9 recap. Let's take a look at our Week 10 predictions. Game number 1, Bethune-Cookman travels to take on the 6th ranked Savannah State Tigers in an ACC game. I got the Tigers winning that one, obviously. I think that'll be a blowout. Game number 2, Southern Utah travels to take on the Eastern Washington Eagles. I got Eastern Washington winning it. The Thunderbirds' offense has really struggled, and I think they're going to continue to struggle this week. Game number 3, South Dakota State hosts the Southeastern Lions, and I got South Dakota State winning that one. Even though they got their backup quarterback in there, I think Daley Redding and Mason Smith will do enough on the ground for the Jackrabbits to come away with a victory. Game number 4, the 13th ranked Bryant Bulldogs travel to take on the Hampton Pirates in an ACC game, and of course I got the Bryant Bulldogs winning that one. I think they have too much depth, too much speed on offense. I don't think Hampton stands a chance. Our 5th game, Youngstown State travels to Dayton. This should be a good game. I think it'll be closer than you guys think it'll be, but I do have Dayton coming away with a victory in that game as well. So I'm picking all of our schools for the first 5 games, except for Southern Utah, who just got shut out by San Diego. Let's take a look at the last 5 games for the week. UC Davis travels to take on the San Diego Toreros, and I got the Toreros winning this one. I think it'll be pretty close. I don't think the Toreros are going to get a shutout, but I do think they're going to pull off a victory here. UC Davis has really struggled on offense. If Owen Black is having a bad day, that team is going to have a bad day. It's not, he controls the entire offense, so without him having a good day, they're going to struggle mightily scoring points. All right, game number 7. Cal Poly travels to take on the Northern Colorado Bears, and I got Cal Poly winning this one. If they do, Northern Colorado will drop to 3-6, and it'll be looking pretty grim for their bowl season prospects. Game number 8, a Big 12 game. Furman travels to take on the North Dakota State Bison, and they just lost at home to VMI, so I think Furman might have a pretty good shot here at winning this ball game. Game number 9, McNeese State travels to VMI. I got VMI winning that one. Their offense is nasty when it's at full strength, and I think it will continue that success against the Cowboys. Our final game, Jacksonville travels to take on the 16th ranked FAU Owls. I got FAU winning this one. I do think if Ryan Golden has a great game that they might pull off this upset, but I just don't think they have enough depth or speed to keep up with the Owls. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Go ahead and leave a like, comment your predictions below. If you have not joined the Discord channel yet, go ahead and do that. I will put the link in the chat, and I hope to see you guys there. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. I will see you tomorrow with our Houston Texans franchise as we take on the Miami Dolphins in the AFC Championship game. We're trying to get back to our second Super Bowl in the 5 seasons that we've played. That should be a fun one. I'll see you guys tomorrow with that. Take it easy, guys.